There are those among us who do not yearn for the bustling marketplace, the endless applause of crowds, or the loud pursuits that promise joy, but deliver emptiness. Instead, we find ourselves deeply content within the four walls we call home, not because we are weak or afraid, but because we have found a quiet strength there. In that stillness, many truths rise, not to break us, but to awaken something holy within us. To love home is not to withdraw from life. It is to look it full in the face and choose a different pace. The world may call it laziness, isolation, or fear. But let me assure you, to embrace solitude is often to stand nearest to divine truth. For in solitude, one hears things the noise of life has long drowned out, your own heart, the call of eternity, and the echo of what truly matters. The home is not merely a shelter of brick and mortar, it is a sacred forge. Within it, character is shaped, habits are trained, and souls are refined. To love the sanctuary of home is not to shrink, but to grow inwardly until the spirit expands outwardly. Home is not an escape, it is the birthplace of conviction. Yet, this love comes with deep truths, startling truths. Truths that strike not with cruelty, but with the tender force of a mirror finally held to your soul. You realize that silence does not lie. That comfort, though a gift, can become a chain. That peace is no substitute for purpose. That growth still requires friction, and love, if true, must stretch beyond the walls that cradle it. You must ask yourself, do I dwell here out of wisdom, or do I hide here out of fear? Is my comfort growing into courage, or shrinking into complacency? Have I mistaken stillness for stagnation? Because the truth is this, home is the soil of the soul, but even seeds planted in good earth must rise toward the sun. Let not your home be your hiding place, but your training ground. Let its peace prepare you for chaos. Let its silence teach you to speak with fire. Let its shelter inspire you to build shelter for others. For one who truly loves home will never let its love remain selfish. Loving home is not weakness. It is a recognition of where true inner growth begins. In a world that constantly glorifies movement, speed, and external achievement, choosing the stillness of home can seem like opting out of ambition or turning away from progress. But this is a shallow view of what it means to be still, to remain within one's home by choice, to love its rhythms, its silences, and its solitude is not a retreat into laziness or fear, but often a quiet, defiant stand for depth in a shallow age. It is a bold refusal to let the noise define one's value. It takes strength to be still when the world demands motion. It takes wisdom to choose slowness when everything pushes toward acceleration. Those who love home are not running away from life. They are running toward a different kind of life, a life built on meaning, not merely momentum. Within the walls of home, one begins to listen, and in that listening, a different kind of growth takes root. It is not the growth that others can easily measure. It is not the promotion, the paycheck, or the applause. It is the growth of clarity, conscience, compassion. At home, you are stripped of the costumes you wear in the world. No more pretense, no more performance. Here, you are simply yourself, and that is where real work begins. The kind of work that cannot be posted or praised, but only lived. The kind that changes who you are, not just what you do. It is here, in this space of honesty, that the soul finds both its emptiness and its longing, and then begins to be filled, not with what the world gives, but with what eternity offers. The world often mistakes busyness for productivity and noise for significance. But true strength is not found in how much you do, but in how well you know why you're doing it. Home gives you space to remember your why. It invites reflection, and in reflection, we are reformed. There is no audience at home, and so the heart is free to beat according to its true rhythm. And when you begin to align with that rhythm, your strength deepens. Not the kind of strength that crushes others, but the kind that carries them. Not the kind that dominates rooms, but the kind that withstands storms. To love home is to accept the sacredness of unseen moments. It is the quiet meals, the long pauses, the unfinished prayers, the books half read, the thoughts that take days to form. These things don't shine in the eyes of the world, but they sharpen the inner life. They are the slow falling rain that nourishes roots beneath the soil, and in time, these roots hold firm when the winds rise. This is not weakness. This is the very essence of endurance. It's easy to impress strangers, but difficult to live well in your own skin, in your own space, day after day. Those who love home have chosen the harder path, the path where there's no one to applaud them, where the victories are small and interior, where the enemy is often the self. But these are the battles that matter most. The decision to be kind in silence, to be disciplined without external pressure, to be grateful when no one notices. These are the habits that transform a person at their core. This kind of transformation cannot be rushed. It is not performed on stages or posted online. It is the patient shaping of the soul, and it often happens best in the quiet corners of home. So, when you find yourself loving the walls that surround you, the familiar footsteps in the hallway, the quiet hours before sunrise, do not think of it as lesser. Do not shame yourself for preferring peace over popularity. See it for what it truly is, a sacred space where your real self is being built. And as that self is formed, you will one day step beyond your doors, not with noise, but with purpose, not with chaos, but with clarity. And those who meet you will not know what made you different, but you will. It began at home, not in weakness, but in a kind of strength this world has almost forgotten. Solitude exposes truth that noise often hides, self, purpose, and divine whispers. The world today is saturated with sound. Everywhere we turn, there is a demand for our attention. Voices from every direction, screens glowing with constant messages, the endless hum of busy lives. And in all that clamor, something essential gets buried. The voice within. The truth that waits patiently in silence, unwilling to shout, but always ready to speak to the one who dares to be still. Solitude is not just an absence of people, it is the presence of clarity. It is the condition in which the soul can finally hear what it has long been trying to say. When we embrace solitude, whether in a quiet room, a long walk alone, or simply the silence between moments, we enter a space where masks are removed. There is no one to impress, no role to play. We are stripped down to our most basic identity, and that encounter can be startling. In the stillness, all the distractions that once kept us from seeing ourselves clearly begin to fade. We are forced to reckon with who we are without applause, without affirmation, without activity. And this is not a punishment, it is a gift. For it is only in knowing who we are apart from the world that we begin to understand who we were created to be within it. Solitude brings our fears to the surface, but it also brings our courage. It brings our doubts into focus, but it also illuminates our faith. It doesn't just show us what is broken, it reveals what is eternal. It quiets the noise long enough for the divine whisper to reach us, not as a roar, not as a command, but as a gentle breath, saying, "You are more than what they say, you are more than what you do, you are known, you are seen, you are loved." This kind of truth cannot be heard in the chaos of constant movement. It is reserved for those willing to be still, for those who love solitude, not as a way to hide, but as a way to discover. Purpose, too, is born in solitude, not in the frantic pursuit of success or in the echo chamber of public approval, but in the quiet realization of what truly matters. Many chase their goals without ever questioning their origin. They run faster and climb higher, only to reach the top of ladders leaning against the wrong walls. But when you sit in solitude, the noise of ambition fades and the gentle questions rise. What do I value? What brings life to others? What would I do if no one were watching? In that space, purpose takes root, not as a performance, but as a calling. And what of the divine? In solitude, the sacred becomes clearer, not necessarily in grand visions or dramatic moments, but in the simple, unshakable sense that you are not alone, that even in the quiet there is presence, even in the silence there is meaning. Many expect God to speak through thunder, but more often he speaks through whispering winds, through inner nudges, through the conviction that grows when no one else is around. Solitude becomes sacred ground, not because it is empty, but because it is full of unseen truth. To fear solitude is to fear the truth, but to embrace it isn't to step into light. It is not always comfortable. It will show you things you might rather ignore. Old wounds, hidden bitterness, unspoken grief. But it will also reveal resilience, grace, and the depth of your spirit. You may cry in solitude, but you will also heal there. You may question everything, but you will also begin to see clearly. Not because the answers are easy, but because they are real. We often think of strength as loud, as visible. But there is a quiet strength that only solitude can give, the kind that is rooted in knowing who you are, whose you are, and why you're here. It's the kind of strength that doesn't crumble when no one claps. It stands firm because it was not built on noise but on truth. So if you find yourself drawn to quiet places, to moments alone, don't resist them. Let them become your classroom, your sanctuary, your mirror. Let them strip away the lies and reveal what is lasting. Because in that quiet place, you will meet the most important truths of your life, not shouted from stages, but whispered into your soul. Truths about yourself, truths about your purpose, truths about the one who has never stopped watching over you. Home can either be a sanctuary for strength or a prison of fear. Discern the difference. This truth is subtle and often uncomfortable because the line between the two is not drawn with bricks or furniture, but with intention. The same space that shelters can also suffocate, and it is not the walls that determine which it becomes, but the heart of the one within. A sanctuary is a place where the soul is restored, where stillness becomes soil for courage, where time slows enough for truth to take root. But that very same stillness, if misunderstood or misused, can harden into avoidance. What once was peace becomes numbness. What began as rest turns into resignation. And so, loving home requires more than affection. It demands discernment. The sanctuary is not about escape. It is about preparation. It is a place where you gather your thoughts, sharpen your values, and rest not to avoid life, but to face it more fully. When home is a sanctuary, you rise each day not with dread, but with direction. You do not isolate, you incubate. You do not fear the world outside your door, but you choose when and how to step into it with purpose. You make decisions in peace, not in panic. You are free to be yourself, and from that freedom comes the clarity and courage to live with conviction, even when the world misunderstands you. A sanctuary is a place where you remember who you are, so that the world doesn't tell you who to be. But when home becomes a prison, its silence turns cold. The space that once offered reflection now reinforces fear. You begin to hide, not heal. You start shrinking your world, cutting yourself off from challenge, from connection, from responsibility. You convince yourself that you are safer this way, untouched by chaos or failure. Yet beneath the surface, your spirit begins to erode. Dreams are postponed again and again until they are forgotten altogether. The joy of solitude turns into the dull ache of loneliness. You no longer rest, you retreat, and slowly, without realizing it, you begin to disappear from your own life. What causes this shift? Often, it is subtle. Disappointment that has not been processed, fear that has been disguised as a peace, a loss of belief in your own ability to contribute, to overcome, to change. Maybe you once ventured out and were met with rejection. Maybe the weight of the world felt too heavy and home became your hiding place, and hiding for a moment can be healing. But only for a moment. We are not made to hide forever. We are made to be light, not to be buried under comfort, but to shine from a place of peace. That is the purpose of a sanctuary, not just to protect you, but to empower you. So ask yourself honestly, is your love for home rooted in strength or fear? Do you feel inspired, or do you feel stuck? Are you growing within your space, or merely existing? Discernment doesn't come easily, but it begins with noticing. Notice the state of your mind when you are home. Are you reflective or restless? Are you hopeful or heavy? Do your thoughts move toward possibility, or do they circle endlessly around what you lack? This awareness is not meant to shame you, it is meant to awaken you, because if you find that your home has become a prison, you do not need to abandon it. You need to reclaim it. You reclaim it by returning to purpose, by reintroducing discipline and delight, by facing the thoughts you've avoided and replacing fear with faith. Open a window, let light in, move things around, create beauty, speak truth out loud. Remind yourself that you are still here and that being here is a sacred thing. Slowly, the walls that once held you in will begin to hold you up, and what was once your hiding place will once again become your holy ground. Loving home is noble, but it is not neutral. It will either shape you or shelter you too long. It will either grow you or grind you down. The difference is not in the place, but in the posture you hold inside it. Choose wisely. Let your home be the soil, not the ceiling. Let it be the garden where courage blooms. Let it be the lamp that lights your way, not the lock that closes your door. Because the soul was never meant to be caged, it was meant to be cultivated. And the right kind of home will never imprison. It will prepare. True comfort must lead to conviction, not complacency. Comfort in itself is not wrong. In fact, it is a gift. A home that offers warmth, safety, and peace is a blessing in a world filled with chaos. The stillness of comfort allows the heart to breathe, the mind to reflect, and the soul to heal. It gives space to process pain, to mend what has been broken, and to rediscover joy in the simple and the ordinary. But comfort was never meant to be the end. It was meant to be the beginning. It is a resting place, not a final destination. When comfort is misunderstood as the goal, rather than the foundation, it transforms from a blessing into a trap. It begins to dull the senses. It soothes away urgency. It convinces the heart that ease is the same as peace, and that stillness means nothing is required of us. But conviction demands more. It stirs, it challenges, it awakens. It rises from the depths of comfort, like a voice calling us forward, reminding us that we were not made to sit still forever. The danger of comfort is that it whispers softly. It does not attack with noise, but tempts with silence. It says, "You are fine as you are, even when growth is necessary." It says, "You've done enough," when more is still required. It cradles you gently until the spark of action grows dim. Conviction, however, will not let you rest too long. It will call you to rise, not with force, but with urgency. It is the feeling that wakes you in the quiet and says, "There is more in you. You were made for more than this." Conviction grows in the same soil as comfort, but it refuses to stay buried. It takes the peace that comfort gives and uses it as fuel to step into purpose. The one who dwells in comfort must ask themselves honestly, is this peace or is this pause? Is my heart being strengthened or is it slowly falling asleep? Am I preparing or am I avoiding? These questions are not accusations, they are invitations. Invitations to examine whether your comfort is serving your soul or silently numbing it. Because conviction is not born in noise or pressure, but in honesty. When you sit with your comforts and begin to ask what they are leading you toward, you will often find the beginning of conviction rising. Conviction does not reject comfort. It transforms it. It takes the safety of home and turns it into a training ground. It uses the blessing of quiet to build a deeper inner fire. Conviction says, "Because I have peace, I can now bring peace to others." It says, "Because I have been restored, I can now help restore." It moves the heart from receiving to giving, from waiting to doing, from being held to holding others. True comfort makes us strong enough to carry truth, but only if we allow it to move us. There are many who never leave the boundaries of comfort because they fear what lies beyond it. They believe that conviction will cost too much, and it's true, conviction is costly. It demands action. It asks for sacrifice. It calls for courage. But it also brings joy that comfort alone can never offer. The joy of knowing you are living fully. The joy of standing for something that matters. The joy of using your peace to bring light into darkness. When comfort becomes complacency, it stops being comfort. It becomes stagnation. Loses color. Time feels empty. Dreams fade. The soul begins to ache, not because of pressure, but because of unused potential. But when comfort is partnered with conviction, the opposite happens. Rest fuels purpose. Stillness makes action sharper. Peace becomes power. You do not burn out, you burn brighter. You do not fear change, you become its voice. You do not cling to what you have, you become willing to risk for what is right. So, love your comfort. Cherish your safe places. Thank God for the home, the peace, the rest. But do not let them lull you into forgetting why you were given them in the first place. You were given comfort so that you could rise with strength, so that your roots could grow deep and your branches could stretch wide, so that in due time your conviction would be unmistakable, not loud but unwavering. Let comfort be your soil, not your ceiling. Let it feed your fire, not extinguish it. Let it carry you toward conviction, not away from it. Because in the end, the purpose of comfort is not to keep you still, it is to make you ready. Growth requires discomfort, even within your most familiar spaces. It is easy to assume that progress only happens in dramatic leaps, in new environments, or through external challenges. But the truth is that the most profound growth often begins in the places that feel the most routine, the most comfortable, and the most predictable. Familiarity can easily become a shield from discomfort, convincing us that if nothing is wrong, nothing needs to change. Yet growth is rarely born from ease. It is carved out of tension, shaped by friction, and nurtured through the quiet unease that whispers, "There's more than this." At home, where the routines are known and the surroundings secure, discomfort often shows up not in obvious ways, but in the subtle moments, the lingering dissatisfaction after a lazy day, the quiet conviction that your time could be better spent. The tug of inspiration that you ignore because comfort says it can wait. Discomfort is not always loud. Sometimes it comes in the form of questions that won't go away. Sometimes it arrives as boredom that asks for creativity, as stillness that asks for movement, or as silence that demands an answer. And in those moments, a choice arises. Will you allow discomfort to lead you forward, or will you hide it under distractions? The discomfort that fuels growth within familiar spaces is often emotional, internal, and inconvenient. It's the discomfort of confronting your habits, realizing that your routines might not be serving you as well as you thought. It's the discomfort of admitting that you've outgrown certain patterns, even if they once brought you peace. It's the discomfort of honesty with yourself. When you see that procrastination has disguised itself as rest and hesitation has worn the mask of caution, these realizations can sting, but they are necessary. Without them, comfort becomes confinement. The walls of home, once protective, become barriers to your own expansion. There is a sacred kind of discomfort that grows from the tension between who you are and who you are and who you are meant to be. That tension is not your enemy. It is the very invitation to transformation. Growth within familiar spaces is not about rejecting home, but about refusing to let home keep you unchanged. It is about challenging yourself in the same place where you once found rest. It is about taking what was your refuge and turning it into your training ground. It is about using every moment, even the quiet ones, to stretch yourself toward the person you are becoming. This kind of growth is often unnoticed by others. There is no applause when you wake up earlier to pursue something meaningful. There are no headlines when you choose discipline over distraction, but these small daily choices are where lasting growth happens. Not all battles are visible. Some are fought within, against laziness, against fear, against old mindsets that no longer belong. And the victory is found in consistency, in showing up for yourself, even when no one else sees. Growth, especially in comfortable spaces, demands intention. It does not happen by accident. It requires a deliberate willingness to step into discomfort, to challenge the habits that no longer reflect your highest values, and to refuse the seductive lull of a just enough. When you embrace discomfort in familiar places, you begin to reshape those spaces themselves. Home becomes more than shelter. It becomes a classroom. Your routines become rituals of purpose. Your silence becomes a space where vision is born. The furniture doesn't change, but you do. And because of that, everything feels different. You stop waiting for growth to come from the outside. You stop blaming circumstances for your stagnation. You realize that even within the four walls you know so well, there are depths you have yet to explore. Growth is no longer a destination far away. It becomes something alive right where you are. The temptation to stay comfortable is powerful. It offers short-term ease in exchange for long-term potential. But if you want to grow, you must learn to welcome discomfort even when it visits your most beloved places, especially when it does, because growth is not a stranger that visits new lands. It is a quiet guest that often knocks on the same door every day, asking to be let in. If you wait for life to become unfamiliar before you grow, you will wait too long. But if you dare to grow right where you are, discomfort will become not something to fear, but something to thank. It will become your teacher, your mirror, and eventually your companion on the path to becoming who you were always meant to be. The one who finds peace at home must learn to bring that peace into the world. It is a beautiful thing to cultivate inner calm, to find safety and serenity within the walls of one's home. There is something sacred about knowing how to rest, how to be still, how to live gently and intentionally away from the chaos of the world. But peace, if it is to be real and enduring, cannot remain hidden. It is not a possession to be hoarded, but a power to be shared. The purpose of peace is not only to comfort you, but to commission you. You were not given peace just for yourself. You were given it so that you could carry it into places where it is absent, where hearts are restless, where hope has worn thin. Home teaches you the rhythm of peace. It shows you how to breathe, how to reflect, how to let go. But these lessons are meant to be taken with you. What you learn in your quiet place must eventually echo in the loud spaces. The strength you develop in your stillness must flow outward into action, into compassion, into courage. There are people outside your door who do not know peace, people weighed down by anxiety, surrounded by noise, drowning in demands. If you have been blessed to find calm, then you have a responsibility to offer calm, not by preaching it, but by embodying it, by being the steady presence in an unstable world, by being the one who listens when others shout, who understands when others judge, who forgives when others fight. To bring peace into the world does not mean avoiding conflict or pretending everything is fine. It means entering spaces of tension with a spirit that refuses to add to the chaos. It means speaking truth without aggression, holding space for others without losing your own center, and living with purpose that is not easily shaken. True peace is not passive, it is powerful. It does not flee from trouble. It transforms it, and that kind of peace is formed in the quiet places, but proven in the public ones. You know you've really learned peace when you can carry it with you, when you can stand in the storm and still remain anchored, not because the storm is small, but because your center is strong. Too many people treat peace as a personal retreat, as if its highest purpose is to help them avoid stress. But peace is not a hiding place. It is a launching ground. It equips you to love deeply, to serve faithfully, and to lead wisely. It is not meant to keep you apart from the world, but to send you into it with a different spirit. The world doesn't just need more noise, more urgency, more activity. It needs more peace. It needs people who are not panicked, people who are not led by fear, people who do not crumble under pressure. It needs those who know what it means to be whole on the inside and who live out of that wholeness day by day. Your home is the place where you practice peace, but your calling is to extend it beyond yourself. It might be through kindness in a workplace that is competitive. It might be through encouragement in a family that is divided. It might be through gentleness In a world that values dominance, your peace can become a force that others feel, not because you force it on them, but because you carry it quietly and consistently. Like a candle in a dark room, it makes its presence known not by noise, but by light. And that light, over time, can warm hearts, open minds, and bring hope. Peace is powerful because it is rare, and those who have found it must not keep it to themselves. If you have walked through fear and found calm, then you know how valuable it is. If you have wrestled with inner storms and discovered stillness, then you understand how needed it is. Let that understanding move you. Let it push you beyond the comfort of your own sanctuary and into the lives of others. Let your presence become a refuge. Let your words bring clarity. Let your life reflect the reality that peace is not just a feeling. It is a calling. It is a calling. A calling to be a different kind of person in a world that desperately needs difference. You have found peace at home. Now go and let that peace speak louder than the noise.